everyone. Today I have with me screenwriter and director Jacob Stuart. Thank you, Jacob, for coming and talking to me today.
Yeah, thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, you have a new picture coming out very soon, right?
I do. A feature film called Addicting Picture. It's currently in post-production.
I watched the trailer. Oh my God, that looks amazing. It really does. Do you want to give us a little synopsis of it? So I don't.
Yeah, sure. Basically, it's a one-location movie. It takes place on one location, has under like 10 characters. I mean, we created it so we could shoot it, on a budget. But basically, it's about this guy and girl. They're engaged, and she wants her big sister's approval, and all because of one photo, the dating photo. The sister had never met him, but said that she didn't want to prove it because he was an addict, drinker, smoker, gambler, womanizer. And she came up with this hypothesis based off one photo. And she's a psychic, or at least she says she's a psychic. So the whole movie is pretty much him having to defend himself. But while they kind of, sit and analyze the photo and him saying he's not this, not that, some of her clients come in. A lot of them are really colorful, eccentric and stuff. So yeah, I don't want to obviously give away the ending, but that's kind of the battle. And I guess the whole point is that everyone kind of has their own secrets. Nobody's kind of innocent. So, and that's kind of revealed throughout the movie.
Well, I didn't think I've recognized. Is there any big names in it, or are they all brand new actors and actresses?
Actually, a good portion of them are in the theater world. Chicago has a pretty big, theater, and that's where we shot it. So,
nice.
So yeah, So not any like huge names, but ones that I'm sure will make a name for themselves pretty soon. But all very talented. We were extremely happy with, given our budget and the turnout of casting. I mean, most of our actors, or at least our main leads, got paid SAG rates. So.
Mm-hmm. Which reminds me, did you see the new movie Get Out?
I have not. That's on my list. So no, I haven't. But I've heard mixed reviews.
Well, it just reminds me of that because nobody in that movie is well known. And
Okay.
They did it for a budget of $5 million.
Yeah.
And it's made, an incredible amount of money since it was released. But my 17-year-old son went to go see it with his friends. And then the next day he was like, and, he's not a movie person like me, but he was like, let's go. We're going to this movie. You have to see this movie. And I don't really like scary movies. And I was like, okay, if you give me like a heads up when the jump scares are, I'll go with you. So he would give me like a 5-second head start on but no, I think that is, whether that's unfortunate or fortunate, I think it's fortunate for us because these movies, that movie was, the screenwriting was, I thought it was amazing. I really did. I thought it was, and I go to the movies all the time, and I really, really enjoyed it. And what I enjoyed out of it was that I didn't know anybody. They're all brand new actors and actresses, and they were amazing. Like, they were just beyond amazing. So,
yeah.
I love that. I love that these other people are getting a shot at a big movie, and they didn't even know it was going to be a big movie. And then look at what happened to it.
That's kind of like Moonlight. Moonlight was made for 1.5 million, and I mean it's arguable how big those actors were going into that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it wasn't one of my favorite movies, but I mean obviously it cleaned up at the Academy Awards, and usually to get a name for yourself you kind of have to be like a day player or have a supporting role. But movies like that and the one you talked about kind of gives actors who are very talented but don't have a huge Twitter, Instagram following, whatever, an opportunity to showcase their skills in a lead role. So yeah, that's on my list of checking out. I like horror films.
Yeah, well, and because I think if I didn't look this up, but my son said the guy wrote it and directed it, so that's just like you. So I think you should check. Like, I love that,
Yeah, I think every writer's dream is to at least have the opportunity to direct at least one of their projects, so they have full creative control. Because writers usually give that up as soon as they sell the rights away.
Yes, absolutely. So anyway, I did watch your short film, The Mailbox.
Oh, great.
Oh my gosh, that was so good. And you know what? Ever since before I started interviewing screenwriters, I never watched short films. I used to always
Yeah.
think, how can anybody catch my attention in 10 minutes or 15 minutes? But then screenwriters like yourself would say, here, just watch this or watch this. And they'd send me their links. And I can't believe what I get out of those short films. Now I'm a huge fan. And that story, I mean, that was just, everybody should watch it. We'll put a link on it on this video because just take 10 minutes out of your time and watch this movie and you will love it. It was such a great job. That was, and talk about, actors that were amazing. Like, they were amazing.
Yeah, thank you for watching that. That's awesome. Yeah, I've always been a big fan of shorts. I mean, when I went to film school, we had to make a lot of shorts, and that was our thesis. Mm-hmm. And I found a lot of success with shorts. Like, I think that's kind of what broke me into the industry, but it also got me my representation, or at least my first agent. And I mean, I've cleaned up on awards with shorts, but this was the first short that I did that I actually made my money back, because usually it's just a calling card for the most part, and kind of to add, I'm now an award-winning writer. My films have been selected. But, yeah, this got picked up by Screening Now, which is an online you can, if you have a Roku, you can watch it on TV. But, it's a very smaller version of like a Netflix or Hulu. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, they pay for content. And, again, like for short film, we were pretty excited to have it picked up. I mean, it's been in 7 festivals, but you don't usually make much money in those. So we were kind of surprised to actually make a profit on the short. But yeah, the subject matter, my grandmother has Alzheimer's. So it was something I definitely wanted to, I don't think there's enough movies that kind of talk about that, but we're still, as human beings, starting to learn about that disease. And it's not, it's not one of those things that we don't have a cure for it. We don't completely understand it. So I'm hoping we see more of that. I can't think of the name of that movie, but in 2014, can't think of the name of the actress. She won the Oscar for, she played a woman with Alzheimer's. I can't think of that movie for the life of me.
You know what I was thinking of? The Notebook.
That's right. He did have that. Yeah. He wasn't. But yeah, he wasn't. Finding Alice. Sorry, that's the movie that. Yeah. But yeah, but she was like the main character. But yeah, I completely forgot. I love The Notebook. But yeah, he wasn't. James Garner wasn't like the center of the movie on that.
Right. Yeah, I just think in The Notebook, my kids were like addicted to that movie when that came out.
I liked it. I don't know if it's okay for guys like that film, but I loved it.
You know what? My oldest son. I have 6 children, and my oldest son was the one who became so addicted to it that the rest of them just followed him. So so I think you can. I think it's okay.
That's great.
So so you did that. I mean, that short made it, and now you've got this. I mean, what goes on? So the Addicting picture, you write it, you get the rights to, you figure out a way to direct it, which is amazing. And then what happens? So did you have to sell it? I always like to know, because there are different ways. Everybody tells me they're a different story. So when you're writing it, do you sell it then, or do you, what is your process to get to that movie? Because I think this movie is going to do very well for you. I loved.
Thank you.
I loved it. I think that the concept is just crazy. I was like, yes, that, and then nobody ever thought of that. That's a great concept for a movie.
Yeah, I'll explain all that. But with you bringing that up, what's funny is when I was talking to producers or investors, they always want to know what films are in the vein of this, so I can kind of, they get an idea. And I'm normally really good at that, and I wasn't for this one. I was like, I don't know, and that kind of scares investors too, because they're like, well, how do I know if this film will make any money? There's nothing to base it on. But sometimes they like that because it's an original idea. But yeah, I had all my screenplays. I can say, well, it's in the vein of this or in the vein of that. But this one, it made it sound like I wasn't prepared for the question. I just didn't have an answer. But no, so going back, when I first started out after film school, I used to write and direct my stuff. And then when I got a little bit older and started to get more experience or whatever, to direct your own writing is nearly impossible. You have to have, they don't want to go on first-time directors or anything like that. So I kind of, for like the last 5 or 6 years, just focused on writing and then getting my screenplays out there, selling them, getting representation. A lot of it was sitting on options. So I don't know if the viewers are familiar with options, but the producer has it for 6 months or a year, and they try to find funding. And if they don't, they revert it back to you. And I've had a script that was option 3 times for like over 3.5 years, and it's very frustrating.
But you do get paid for options, right?
Well, they have to put down $1. So, and usually that's exactly what they do.
Sorry. No, I really did. I don't know why I thought that. I thought that they had to pay you. I knew that it came back, but I thought they had to pay you to keep it on hold because they're keeping it just out there, and then they get back 2 years later. It doesn't seem quite fair, but okay.
It's not. It's a frustrating process. You know, on your bigger studios and stuff, sometimes you can get more money, like a percentage of what the buyout price would be. But normally with in the indie world, I've had dollar checks sent to me, and it's just like, I'm not even going to cash a dollar check, but I hold it on file because that's the rights that they pay for it. So long and short, I've been sitting on a bunch of different options, for instance, and this movie, Addicting Picture, I had a couple producers who were, who kind of wanted it, who didn't. They liked the concept. They didn't know if they wanted it. And then I had some ridiculous offers, like somebody who would pay me $45 for it. And I was like, yeah, okay. So anyways, yeah, you reach all of these. So I was going through this little stage. I was just so tired of seeing some of my scripts just sit there, and found a producer in Chicago who wanted the script, and the price was a good price. And I was going to just sell it like that. And then she said, would you like to direct it too? And I was like, well, yes, I'd love to direct it. This one was a little challenging only because she's a first-time producer. She's Indian, and she wants to get into Bollywood films, but she wanted to make an American film first. And I was living in Los Angeles at the time, and she was in Chicago, so we had a time difference. And then I had to move back to the Ohio, Indiana area for some family reasons and different things. So there was a moving process and all that. And because she was just kind of starting out, and she had a full-time job with like IT, I kind of, I was doing the casting, I was doing wardrobe and crewing everybody up. So I kind of had to wear a lot of hats. I wish I would have had more time to kind of really sit and like storyboard and shot list and stuff. Mm-hmm. But all in all, so yeah, I got to write it and direct it, and we had a small casting crew. Again, it was in one location. We shot in a penthouse in Chicago. And, we shot the film in 5 days. I've worked on features as a PA to camera to everything, and I've never done a feature film in that was what the budget allowed. And, Pooja was the producer, and I kind of had asked her, can we extend it? And they're just, given the budget. And she had a little bit of a bigger budget we could have used, but because this was her first film, she wanted to make sure that she can make a profit off this before moving forward. Mm-hmm. So, and one of the things that she liked about me was when she was talking to a couple other writers, directors, everyone kept saying no. And I would say yes. Okay, so would I rather be able to shoot for, 14 days? Yes. Mm-hmm. If I only have 5 days, we'll make it work. So, and we did. We made it work, and that's all credited to the cast and crew. Mm-hmm. They just did a fantastic job. But usually my process is I write a script, and I send it out there, and I try to get someone to buy it. Usually it's an option. Every once in a while it's a purchase. But I've been doing that for a while now, and I'm really glad for the opportunity to finally get to direct, because I've had projects that were made that just turn out terribly, and it's just I had no control over it. So,
yeah. Well, that is what every screenwriter, I think, has a problem with, if they don't get more of a say, but then it's like, just take the money and go, and,
Yeah. And writers have to pay bills too, so sometimes you just have to take the money and move on.
That's right, exactly. And they want to write more, so, sometimes you just like, let it go and don't become too attached to it. But I'm sure, that's a very difficult process anyway, so. But I think that what's awesome is that that's going to be the story of it. So it's like you can kind of flip it to what a great story that's going to be when you're, talking, when there are going to be lots of interviews going out when you're doing this, when the movie comes out, and you can be like, I filmed this movie in 5 days. I did it in one location. It's a low budget film. And boom, just like Get Out, just like people love that story. They don't necessarily the $100 million budgets, and then you're like expected. It's like, of course it better do good. And then if it doesn't, then you're a failure. So I think I think it works.
And we've actually had I've had interviews since just the release of the trailer, but of people finding out about the project and kind of pulling some of my connections of people who are in publications trying to, get the hype up. But the LA Post, the Odyssey, Blasting News, the Maxit magazine, and some of you go on the website, you can see a lot of the publications, but without seeing the actual film, basically what they can say in the publication is, oh, we love the log line, the synopsis, the trailer looks good, we saw behind the scenes, pictures, all looks great. But the thing that they all focus on, and that is just what you said, it's like, this film is the meaning of minimalism. We shot on a budget, we had a small crew, a small cast, and we highly relied on the script, the story, like the story had to sell.
Right.
And so, and that's what I'm hoping to achieve. And, as a director, there was a lot of things I wanted to do, like really cool shots and stuff. But given our time, sometimes it was just we get our master, we go over the shoulder, we go in for a close up, and then we got to move on. So, and that's why our actors really had to sell it, and they did. I mean, I'm very impressed with all of it, and just like you said, I'm hoping that when people watch it, we actually are having a premiere in a movie theater for 2 days in May before we start submitting it to festivals. And I'm hoping there's a Q&A afterwards, and I'm hoping when I tell them the budget that they're just surprised. Like, they know it won't be $1 million film, just obviously, but I'm hoping when I say that they just can't believe it. So while I am kind of, piggybacking, if there's a few things that you don't like, remember our budget, I'm hoping that they don't even realize that. And then when I tell them, it just adds, more popularity.
Exactly. And, really with the way, like, my son was telling me how Get Out, the popularity of that is kids. Kids get on social media, they start, sending it out, and that's what's awesome is like it's almost like free publicity now.
Absolutely.
Because once somebody gets it out and then it just builds and builds and builds, and of course we will be promoting it for you too. So, I can't wait to see it. But I mean, that is the advantage of the social media nowadays, is that you can get it out there, and you can, and then you've got that crew who can get it out, and then it just, it'll snowball. And so it's going to a festival. When is it going to festival?
Well, right now we had a movie theater reach out to us in Ohio who wants to do 2 screenings, and it'll be a 50-50 profit, so they make half and we make half. And it's going to kind of be, instead of making it like a world premiere, I'm going to make it more of an Ohio premiere. And but yeah, we're going to have premiere up for 2 days there, and then we're going to hit the festival circuit. I already have 4 distribution companies who've reached out to me who want a first look deal with it, but obviously I want to go the festival route first, hit the bigger ones. I mean, it's hit or miss. I mean, you could get in, you could not, but that's where some of the other better distribution companies are. So hopefully if we get in one of those, we can make a bigger, better deal. But after we kind of do the film festival circuit, and we're just kind of like, okay, maybe we've got some nominations or awards, but we're just not getting anyone who wants to buy it, then I'll probably go back to some of those other distribution companies because they're smaller, or go to like a streaming service, I mean, you can get your stuff on iTunes and stuff easily, and Netflix and Hulu isn't hard, but like that Screening Now, that the Mailbox, they do feature films too. So there's a lot of options out there, but I've worked in like over 10 different film festivals and ran a couple of screenplay contests at some of them. So I know how the film festival circuit works. I know which ones to stay away from, which ones to try to get into. And you have to budget for that. They add up money, and you have to be realistic on if you can get in or not. Our producer is really into wanting to go submit at Sundance. And I'm thinking, well, Sundance has, first off, they only take alumni. It's all like they only want people who have been there before. And they expect A-list and B-list actors. And I don't mean that by talent. I just mean those with huge names. And
exactly.
So, I mean, I was like, it's expensive to submit there. And then if you get in, they're going to expect you to be there for the whole week doing this, this, and this. And so, I mean, that's fine. I mean, yes, of course, I would never turn that down. But, maybe being realistic on some of the places that we know we can probably get into. Of course, the whole film was shot in Chicago, so we definitely want to hit up Chicago film festivals. So, but yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm so happy for you. I know it's going to do well. Okay, so you sent me an article that you had written called 7 Steps for Great Dialogue. And I just wanted to go over these quick because I loved your art. I loved it. I thought it was an amazing article. And if you want, I can post that too, because I think this is a great, I've read a lot of screenwriting books, and I talked to a lot of screenwriters, but I loved some of the examples. So do you mind if I go through them?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to actually pull up that article.
Pull it up? Okay. So you can look at it while I actually wrote these down in my screenwriting book because I think you just nailed it, and I wanted to, share it with everybody because then you can give other screenwriters who are just starting out in the business. This is a great place for them to start, especially when it comes to dialogue, because that is the hardest thing, everybody says, and I believe that's one of the harder things about screenwriting is making dialogue flow. And I am not one of those people that goes to the movies for car chases. Or
No.
Like, I love dialogue. I'll go to older movies to get dialogue. Like, I love, interaction between characters. So, okay. So, are you looking at it? Do you have it pulled up?
Yeah.
Okay. So, number one, because I thought maybe you could give a little bit of a, explanation. Subtext. And your example was Leaving Las Vegas. Great movie.
Yes.
So, go ahead. I'll let you expand on that.
Well, most actors, like especially the ones that have been trained correctly, they're taught very early that read between the lines, and what the actual character is saying is not actually maybe what they're meaning. And good actors go in and break that down. So, if an actor says, you have two actors and, it's just typical, a guy and a girl, and they're going to go to bed together, and the girl says, I'm tired. Is she really tired, or is she just not attracted to him? So what's the subtext in that? Because that's how the actors are going to deliver the lines. But there's a way to kind of, if you understand your characters, I don't think a lot of screenwriters take time in understanding their characters, but if you understand your character, you know what they're actually meaning, what the underlying meaning of that, and that's how you should, write your dialogue. You need to keep that in mind. I mean, what's the motivation of your character from, this scene to the end of the scene? Like, what are they hoping to accomplish? And that'll help you, determine what the subtext is for each character.
And I'm going to use your short film, The Mailbox, because the line was, did you check the mail?
Yeah.
But every time he said it, it was different. It was like every mood he was in, it was the same line, but you had to watch him in order to see his mood. Sometimes he was in a good mood, sometimes he was, sometimes he was angry, sometimes he was. So I looked at that as like a great example for that, because it's the same line, but it's delivered 15 different ways in 10 minutes.
Yeah, and I think I used
Leaving Las Vegas.
About him. The actual line, like, do you understand? Like, I'm gonna drink. Don't ever ask me not to drink. Do you understand? And she says, yes, I understand. I mean, she doesn't understand. She really doesn't care. She's using them. She needs the companionship. She needs a way out. So no, she doesn't understand. But I think that line when she says I do, she does, but she doesn't. And I think that's a powerful, it's kind of like anyone who's an alcoholic, they always want that person who will never judge or talk about it. Right. And she won't. She may not agree with it, but she's not going to bring it up. So all she says is I do. That's it.
Right.
But
I love that. I love that example. Okay. Number 2, exposition. It's always better to show, not tell when you're writing a screenplay. Right?
Yeah. Yes, and I've read so many scripts from my screenwriting service to screenplay contest, and the thing I hate the most is when your actors are just saying, for instance, like, oh, we've been married for 30 years, or stuff like that, and it's like, come on, we know that. I mean, your character should already know that, and I think that, and some of this is a directing thing too, but there's ways to write this. I mean, a simple, like I write in this, a simple. You show some family photos, or you just have this couple, older couple sitting on the couch, and, they're not newlywed all cuddling. They got the TV trays out in front of them, and they're watching, Fox News or something. And that you don't have to say that stuff, and it just takes up time. It bores the reader, gets straight to the point.
Yeah.
So,
and I was going to say, as much as I like dialogue, I hate throwaway lines like that. That's a throwaway line, like, to me, it's like that line, it doesn't have to be said. We were married 25, like you said, you can do it with pictures. You can do it with, somehow you can make it that the audience already knows it. You don't have to say it. The audience knows it. They know it, so I love that. Okay, number 3, generic roles kind of goes into this too.
Yes, this one's so important, and just as someone who just, cast and direct a film, most of your indie films, your low-budget films, if it's just like a front desk clerk and it just says, all right, here's your room, Mr. and Mrs. whatever, and that's it, they're probably not getting paid. And if they are, it's, pennies, and they're having to drive all the way there, their gas money. They're going to wasting their day to do this. So I tell writers, make these roles worthwhile, not just for your main characters, but for every single one. I think Quentin Tarantino is very good at this. There's not a single role that any actor wouldn't want to play. They're exciting, they're colorful. So I tell, if you're going to have like just a standard person, like someone that works at the front desk. Before I went to film school, I worked at a hotel, and I'm telling you, people at the front desk are not just, we're not just robots. I mean, we have personalities, we have things. So I use that as an example, and it's like, give these people something else, maybe just give them something else. When you post, think about posting on like a casting board, and you have to list what each character is, there should be like 2 lines of description on even your characters that only have 1 line. I mean, if the character's only going to have 1 line where it's just going to be hello, have a nice day, just take it out, move on. I mean, it's going to cost the production more money to bring in an actor, put wardrobe and makeup. So, give every character something, give them emotion, a motivation, anything.
That's awesome. I love that. Especially, I think you probably learned that just even from doing shorts. You can't afford to have somebody that's just, what it comes down to is you can't afford to have them there. So like get rid of them, it doesn't even add to the story. Who cares?
And it doesn't help the actor too, because all they're getting is the reel out of it, so they can put it on their reel. And what good is it going to do if their character is just, someone walking the dog like, oh, good morning. It does nothing for them. So just 86 it.
Okay, number 4, speeches. I loved this one because you use Son of a Woman, which maybe everybody, I hope everybody knows that speech. Yeah. And I was also thinking of, what movie was that? I don't know. Forget it. Go ahead. You go on, and I'll see if I can remember it.
No, there's so many screenwriting books out there, and I always say, go ahead, read them or whatever, but know the rules, and then you can break the rules. I think that can be said in any line of work, but especially screenwriting. And it goes, 2 or 3 lines for each, on your dialogue. Anything past 4, it's too long. And if you're going to have the big speeches, make them at the end. Like once your character finally has its catharsis and goes out there. And I use Son of a Woman because, that movie is riddled with great dialogue. And talking about subtext in every single line. But the only time we really see him just this long speech is at the end. So I think that that philosophy works, have your quirky, your funny, your subtext lines in the beginning, and then you can have your big one at the end. And I think that's what that one does. But nobody really wants to hear a really long speech. Think about some of your favorite movies. Does it ever start off with your character just standing up there? The only, Wolf on Wall Street, Leo has a couple, Leonardo DiCaprio's character, but those are all at the end.
Yes.
So, and it makes sense because he's learning the stock market. He's learning how to be a salesperson. So so we see him small, and then at the end, we see him with a crowd of people. So of course he's giving a big speech.
Right.
So, and I just see, I open up scripts when I'm reading them, and I see, first 5 pages, characters having half page of dialogue. And we don't talk like that with human beings anyways. You don't really speak that way. So yeah, that's just a red flag that you need to work on some writing skills.
Some character development.
Yes.
Okay, number 5, silent films. Now this I liked how you said about turning off a movie and turning the volume off and seeing if you can tell what's going on. I love that. I never heard that before. I love that.
And, so I had a film teacher that recommended that, and I did that with all of my favorite films. And, the instructor was mainly talking more from a cinematographer or a director's point of view, but I don't think it's just like that. I think some of the best scenes that I've read in screenplays don't have any dialogue. As a writer, you can make action scenes. You can have your writer doing, or your character doing something at all times. And this is a visual medium. That's what film is. So, and I think a lot of writers who come from a novel background who get into screenwriting forget that. So it's not so much, it's what we see. It's not what we say. And if you can show something, you can show an emotion without saying it, that's the way to go. I love you, or the big kiss. You go with the big kiss. That's why we watch films. I think, watching silent films is great, but I think turning off the volume on some of your favorite films, or just like powerful scenes, I think will, like The Dark Knight, for instance, that was one of the ones that I did. And you don't need dialogue for some of those scenes. I know exactly what's going on by watching it. So.
Yeah, and I had read this before I saw Get Out, and the big reveal in that movie, no words. So,
Yep.
then when I was reading this, I was like, right, that's what he was talking about. It doesn't need words. They did it all visual. So that was that was awesome. Okay, 6, commanding a voice, having a separate voice for each character. That is hard to do when you're writing a script, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I'll be the first one to tell you, when I first started writing scripts, I used to have some of the best protagonists. My main character was just phenomenal, but everyone else wasn't very good. I spent so much time with that. And an old writing trick is just you go through and you cross out all the names of your characters and see if you know which character's saying what. If you can't determine which character's saying what, then they sound a lot alike. And as humans, we don't. We all have different personalities. We have different accents. We use different slang, you know. So it's really important that each one has a voice, because when I'm reading a script, the ones that I get through, like if I do coverage on them, the ones that I get through and I'm excited about and I forget that I'm actually, reading a script, are the ones where I can just almost just kind of start flipping through it. I know I don't have to stop and say, okay, who said this? And, which character said this and why is he saying this? So, read one of your favorite scripts and you'll notice that, even in the dialogue, who's saying what, even if you couldn't see, this one's John, this one's Fred, this one's Sally, So I think that's really important. And like I said, the best way to do that is just crossing out your characters' names and having your friend tell you, oh, okay, this is character A, this is character B, this is character C. Or because if they come back and say, is it the same character talking, then you've done something wrong.
Yeah, and you know what I was thinking of? So I told you I have 6 children, right? If I didn't see, this is what made me think of this when I was reading this. If I didn't see their name on the phone, like say, their name like Kara comes up, my daughter, right? Say I didn't say that. Say it was a blank, right? And like my daughters have similar voices, okay? So say I pick it up and I go, hello. Each one of them have a different, even my sons who all sound alike. Some of them say, hey. Some of them say hello, or some of them say like, hey mom, or, everybody has a unique way of speaking and greeting. And so I was thinking about that with the voice. I was like, yeah, if I were to write a movie about them, like what I would do is their pickup, when you say, or even if I call them, and they're like, oh, hey mom, oh, hi mom, oh, like it's all different and it's all very consistent. They all answer one way. So that gives them a voice before I even know who it is.
No, that's a good example. Absolutely. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah. So I happen to have a crowd, so, you can kind of compare. I have my own little, crowd. Okay. And the last one, and I love this one, is voiceover, because you use Shawshank Redemption as your example. And I think that was the best example to give because, like you said, it wasn't necessary, but without it, it's not the same movie. And if it can't add to the movie, then don't do it, right?
And one thing that I love voiceover when it's done right. Mm-hmm. Like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas is one of my favorite movies too, and that's all voiceover, most of it. So when it's done right, I love it. And any Screenwriting 101 class will tell you, don't do voiceovers, don't do this. And unfortunately, a lot of the screenplay readers, the gatekeepers to these executive producers, are people fresh out of film school. And they're trained in this certain way, and they've been brainwashed to see something. So I tell writers all the time when I talk classes about this that it's not that voiceovers can't work. It's that these readers kind of have this checklist of things that they look at. And if it's like, oh, there's a bunch of voiceover, they don't know how to translate that into, dialogue or action, and it's no good. So, you don't want to give the readers any reason to stop reading your script right away. I think that's the number one thing. The number two thing is why are you using a voiceover? If you're using it because you don't have any other way of you need to exhaust all your other ways, whether it's dialogue, it's action, whatever it is, description. But if it's needed and if it works, if it pushes the story forward, absolutely use it. I think. But I also tell a lot of people too, look at the ones with voiceovers. And I use Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas and Shawshank. Those are both books. And a lot of times when they do book adaptations, it's a lot of voiceover because you have a lot of stuff you have to explain. But you don't see that in a lot of spec scripts. So.
Yeah, I never really thought about that, right? Because, you got to take a 350-page book and put it into, so it kind of helps the reader. It helps the people who've read the book and then go see the movie. But
and it's important about the backstory too. I mean, a book's all about backstory. So
right, but I love that. So I was like so happy when you sent that to me. I was like, oh my gosh, this is perfect. Then I can really get you to talk about this. So I'm so happy that I met you. And do you have any, like, if somebody came to you and said, now you've been to screenwriting school and you're in the business, you've been in the business. How long have you been in the business since school?
I graduated in 2010, so I've been working in some capacity of film since then, so 7 or 8 years.
Okay, so if somebody came to you and said, I'm going to go to screenwriting school, what would you say as your...
Well, I went to film school at the Los Angeles Film School, which was they taught everything, so it didn't just focus on screenwriting.
Oh, okay, right.
But I always tell everyone that you can't teach someone how to tell a story. Like, you either know how to tell a story or you don't. So you're not gonna, if you go to film school or you go to like USC or UCLA and go for like a master's program in their screenwriting one, which is a great program, they're not gonna. Yes, they're gonna talk about story, but you're not gonna learn story from there. But what they can teach you is the fundamentals of how formatting and how to, you have a great story, you have a great character, but let's make it better, and how to add conflict, and how to break down scenes, and how to sell it, how to get an agent. And I've taught 4 classes at the Hollywood National Film Academy, and I've never taught story. They have someone who taught story, but I did. Mine was how to use social media to sell your script, and how to, let's see, what else have I used? I'm going blank. But no, I talked about, I did one with short films. I did one how to sell your work without an agent or manager, and how to find an agent manager. That's the thing that film schools and screenwriting schools leave out. They don't teach you the business side of writing. They spend so much time on, watching Star Wars and breaking down, the hero's journey. And yes. I mean, it's fun. It's fun at first, but when you graduate and that's all you know, and that was the problem. When I graduated, I knew nothing about the business. So it took me about 2 years to really find mentors, to go to seminars, festivals, read as many books as possible, talk to people, and just browse the internet, learning the business side of screenwriting, because you have to think like a producer in this business. As soon as you stop thinking like a producer, you won't sell your work. So then you should go into writing a novel. Because you have to be out there, and you can't be an introvert like most writers. I mean, you have to go out there. You have to pitch. You have to know how to be good in a room. You have to know how to use Twitter. I hate social media, but I use it all the time because it's my only way of promoting my work. I have to let my network know that I'm working, that this article was written, that this movie is premiering. I mean, you have to use those things. So it's all very important. But no, it's great to go to those schools and all that, and it's fun, and you can learn a lot, but you need to understand that I haven't really come across like a 4-year or 6-year school that teaches you any of that, the business side of it.
Yeah, and I think, my son helps me with this. He edits these, right? And he's always telling me that. He's like, oh, I went on your social media. You're not doing anything. You're not, and I'm like, oh, I just want to interview. Can I just interview? And let somebody else do that part. Because I'm, and I'm older than you, but I don't like it that much. I don't like that part, but I also am aware that if you really want to get your thing seen, you got to do some of it. You just have to. And I think that that's different than screenwriting in the past. They didn't have to worry about that. That wasn't even a thing for them. And that's probably why the schools don't even include it.
Yes.
Because that's so right now. You know, like I said before, the kids are talking. The kids are on Twitter. I hate Twitter. Kids are on Twitter,
And most of the instructors come from, and I think that's also a problem too. But most of your instructors in these schools come from a different type of Hollywood. Right. I mean, when I went to school in 2009, we were actually practicing on actual film. I mean, we hardly touched HD. And I remember my teachers telling me that if we ever end up in TV, we did something wrong with our career. I mean, look at TV now. I mean, if you're not in TV, I mean, maybe you did something wrong with your career. So, I mean, things are constantly changing. And sometimes you have the same recycled syllabus, and then the same recycled teachers and the notes and stuff. But it's changing drastically. I mean, I think when I went to film school, Netflix, you could get the DVD, but you couldn't watch it online.
Right.
So So yeah, things are changing, and it's important to understand all aspects of that. I've connected with so many industry pros by using LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. And like I said, I don't like it. I hate doing it, and it took me a while to finally start promoting myself, because I used to hate when people would talk about all their stuff.
Yes.
But you have to do it. You just have to, and sometimes
You just do it. Yeah, and I was talking to this screenwriting professor a couple months ago, and he told me that he tells his students, like right now, there's at least 400 TV shows going at any given time. You know, so he was like, don't look at TV as being, because TV is not what TV was. Now TV is Amazon originals, Netflix originals, you know, Hulu, I don't know, whatever else is out there. So it's a different world. It's exciting because it gives everybody more options. Even actors and actresses and writers and directors and producers. It gives everybody, it opens the door for everybody. So I think it's a pretty exciting time, you know.
Actors are leaving feature films. I mean, if you read Variety or Deadline or any of those, they're saying that they want to go to where the best characters and the best stories are. Mm-hmm. And right now that's TV. And it's not in feature films. So, I mean, and like House of Cards on Netflix, their budget's over $1 million. It used to be that TV wasn't even close to that. I mean, so they're making TV shows on studio feature film budget. So anyone that can, and TV is much, it's more, I would say, it's consistent. And, if you're trying to raise a family and, pay your bills and stuff, I mean, if you're on a writing team, I mean, at least you know that income's coming in. With feature films, you pretty much live off of one film and then hope that you sell the next one.
Yeah, and as for me, like, I pay cable. I'm not sure why, because on the weekends I just wait for all my shows, go to Amazon, go to Netflix, and sports is what keeps me on regular cable. But
I was going to say,
I've got 2 boys, and I have to keep it for sports. But I mean, and that's the way our world's going. It's not going to be cable. It's not going to be about those cable channels. Really, it's going to be about a much bigger, wider audience that they're going to hit. So it's really awesome. But I am so happy I met you. I learned so much from you, and I know everyone else will too. And I can't wait to see. Please let me know when anything happens. I mean, I will be looking on my social media for you, but let me know, and I will help you in whatever way I can to put it out there. And and best of luck for everything that you're doing. Just so everybody knows, so I will be putting links on there. What kind of links do you have besides social media? You have a website.
I'll send you my IMDb. I will send you my company's website as well.
Okay.
I can send you. I can send you. I have like 14, 15 published articles, like what you just did.
Yes.
So I can send you some links to those if you want to publish those. I'll send you a bunch of different stuff, and you
just
can
so
decide
we can get it out
to
people. They can just click on it, and they can find you, and that's the goal. So anyway.
And let me know when this is up, and I'll share it on my network as well.
I definitely will. You will get a copy of it before it even goes out. You'll get a copy. So
perfect.
Anyway, well, you have a great day, Jacob. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.